The Ethiopian Bible is a remarkable text that sets itself apart from the more widely known Christian Bibles, such as the King James Bible, by containing 88 books instead of the traditional 66. While most Christian traditions include 39 books in the Old Testament and 27 in the New Testament, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible incorporates 22 additional books that were once revered but eventually banned from the mainstream Christian canon. These additional texts are not mere footnotes or commentaries, but complete sacred works that contain significant revelations and profound mysteries about the cosmic battle between good and evil, angels, demons, and the fate of humanity. These books are filled with details and prophecies that cannot be found in other Bibles, making the Ethiopian Bible unique in its scope and content. The excluded books, like the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Maccabees, contain celestial visions, cosmic battles, and tales of fallen angels, which were considered too controversial, too mystical, or too closely tied to Jewish traditions by early Christian leaders. These books delve into subjects like the Nephilim, giant beings created from the union of angels and humans, and apocalyptic visions describing the end of the world. Many early church councils, particularly after the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, deemed these texts too speculative, fearing they might lead to heretical beliefs or divisions within the early Christian faith. What makes the Ethiopian Bible especially fascinating is that these books were never abandoned by Ethiopian Christianity. Ethiopia, one of the first nations to officially adopt Christianity in the 4th century, preserved these sacred texts as part of their religious life, long after they were excluded from Western Christian Bibles. This distinction is not just a matter of religious tradition, but a reflection of Ethiopia's unique spiritual connection to early Christianity and its commitment to maintaining a more comprehensive and mystical understanding of the faith. The Ethiopian Bible's inclusion of these banned books provides profound insights into ancient Christian and Jewish theology that are not found in the standard Christian canon. Ethiopia's connection to the Bible is far deeper than most people realize. The country was one of the first to embrace Christianity, with its official adoption of the faith dating back to the 4th century, long before much of Europe. This deep spiritual bond is not only tied to Christianity but also to ancient Jewish traditions, especially through the unique story of the Queen of Sheba. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Queen of Sheba traveled to Jerusalem to meet King Solomon, as briefly mentioned in Western scriptures. However, Ethiopia's version of this story is much richer. It claims that Sheba and Solomon had a child named Menelik, who would later become the first emperor of Ethiopia. What makes this story even more fascinating is that Menelik is believed to have brought the Ark of the Covenant back to Ethiopia. This sacred chest, which holds the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, is seen in Ethiopian tradition as more than just a historical artifact. It is regarded as a divine mission, with Ethiopia chosen by God to protect and preserve the Ark. This belief further solidifies Ethiopia's unique spiritual role in biblical history. It's no wonder that Ethiopia has long been a center for Christian faith, maintaining a close relationship with ancient Jewish practices and rituals. This connection with Israel is not merely symbolic. It is a central part of Ethiopia's identity as a Christian nation. When Christianity spread throughout the kingdom of Aksum, it was not just the familiar 66 books of the Bible that became central to Ethiopian religious life, but also other sacred texts that were later excluded by Western Christianity. Ethiopia's preservation of these texts reflects its role as a spiritual stronghold, safeguarding not only its own unique religious traditions, but also the broader biblical narrative that many other Christian traditions abandoned. Ethiopia's Bible, containing 88 books, remains a testament to its unwavering commitment to the faith and its place in the broader spiritual history of the world. The exclusion of certain books from the standard Christian Bible is a fascinating and complex part of religious history. Many of the texts that were removed from the Western canon were deemed too controversial, mystical, or too closely tied to Jewish traditions. For example, books like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and Maccabees were excluded for exploring themes that the early church leaders felt were too speculative or conflicting with the emerging Christian identity. The Book of Enoch delves deeply into the story of fallen angels and their interactions with humans, including the Nephilim giant beings born from the union of angels and human women. This type of narrative, focusing on celestial beings, divine judgment, and apocalyptic visions, was seen as a dangerous distraction from the core Christian message of salvation through Jesus Christ. Similarly, books like Jubilees and Maccabees placed a heavy emphasis on strict observance of Jewish laws, such as the Sabbath and dietary practices, at a time when the early Christian church was attempting to distinguish itself from Judaism. These texts were viewed as a threat to the new identity that Christianity was forging. Early Christian leaders, especially after the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, were focused on unifying Christian doctrine and creating a single, authoritative Bible. The inclusion of these books was seen as potentially confusing or divisive, as they offered alternative theological views on topics like the afterlife, angels, and God's final judgment. However, Ethiopia's unique position in Christian history allowed it to preserve these sacred texts. While Western Christianity was moving away from the more mystical Ethiopia's unique position in Christian history allowed it to preserve these sacred texts. While Western Christianity was moving away from the more mystical and too Jewish-influenced parts of Scripture, Ethiopia remained closely tied to both early Jewish traditions and the spiritual practices of the early Christian church. This connection helped Ethiopia maintain its spiritual independence and safeguarded the additional books that were excluded from the Western canon. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, with its 88 books, is a testament to a Christian tradition that values the full range of sacred texts and embraces the complexity and mystery of the divine. During the colonial era, particularly when European powers like Italy sought to dominate Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible became a significant symbol of resistance. The Bible, with its unique collection of texts, was seen as a direct threat to European control and cultural dominance. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, containing books that were excluded from the Western Christian canon, tied Ethiopia spiritually to both Israel and the early Christian church in a way that was deeply inconvenient for colonial powers. Ethiopia's preservation of these ancient scriptures was a clear declaration of independence, signaling that the country would not conform to the Western religious and political order. Colonial forces, particularly during Italy's invasion of Ethiopia in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, viewed the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible as a powerful symbol of Ethiopian defiance and spiritual autonomy. Ethiopia's long-standing Christian tradition, which was rooted in ancient Jewish customs and early Christianity, stood in stark contrast to the colonial powers' attempt to impose their own version of Christianity and culture. By marginalizing the Ethiopian Bible, colonial authorities hoped to weaken the country's spiritual identity and enforce their own religious views. In essence, they sought to suppress the very texts that had been central to Ethiopia's religious and cultural life for centuries. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible was much more than just a religious book. It became a symbol of Ethiopia's spiritual independence and resistance against the forces that tried to erase its cultural and religious heritage. The Bible's preservation was a powerful act of defiance, asserting that Ethiopia would maintain its unique connection to the biblical past, even if the rest of the Christian world rejected or ignored it. For Ethiopians, their Bible represented not just religious devotion, but a powerful stand against foreign domination. The preservation of these sacred texts during such a challenging time in history shows how integral the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible was to the nation's identity and its resistance against colonial forces. The books that were excluded from the Western Christian Bible hold a wealth of spiritual and prophetic insights that remain relevant even today. These texts, preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, offer a deeper understanding of spiritual realms, divine judgment, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. For example, the Book of Enoch presents a detailed account of the rebellion of angels, their descent to earth, and the creation of the Nephilim giant beings, born from the union of fallen angels and human women. This story explores the consequences of these angels imparting forbidden knowledge to humanity, including secrets of warfare, magic, and astrology. Such teachings were viewed as too mystical and dangerous by early Christian leaders, who feared they might lead believers away from the core message of salvation. In addition to exploring the fall of angels, the Book of Enoch offers apocalyptic visions of the end times, where a messianic figure referred to as the Son of Man executes divine judgment on both humans and fallen angels. This concept of divine judgment closely mirrors the role of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, but with a more cosmic and supernatural dimension. The Book of Jubilees further emphasizes the importance of adhering to God's law, revealing a spiritual timeline that connects humanity to divine order. It introduces the concept of an angelic calendar and a solar year, which many believe aligns humanity with the divine rhythm of creation. The Maccabees, on the other hand, tell the stories of Jewish resistance against foreign rulers and their divine interventions during times of persecution. These books have long been revered in Ethiopia, where they serve as a reminder of faith, resistance, and God's protection during difficult times. These texts, which explore themes of prophecy, angels, and divine intervention, provide modern readers with a deeper understanding of cosmic warfare, the judgment of the wicked, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. Today, these banned books continue to offer profound lessons and insights into spiritual matters, urging believers to reflect on their relationship with God and the world around them. The banned books in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, while often overlooked by Western Christianity, hold significant spiritual and theological value that challenges modern perspectives. One of the key reasons these texts were excluded from the Western canon is because they were seen as a threat to the emerging Christian orthodoxy. Early church leaders were focused on creating a unified doctrine for the rapidly expanding Christian world, and some of the books in the Ethiopian Bible, such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Maccabees, presented alternative views on the theology and divine judge was taking. Additionally, the theological content in these books often challenged the emerging understanding of Christian teachings. For example, the Book of Enoch and other mystical texts delve into angelic hierarchies, the nature of sin, and the cosmic battle between good and evil. These subjects, while significant in early Christian thought, were eventually deemed too controversial or too speculative for the unified doctrine the early church leaders were trying to create. However, Ethiopia's long-standing connection to both early Christianity and Judaism allowed it to preserve these texts, seeing them not as threats to orthodoxy, but as important elements that deepen the understanding of God's divine plan. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, therefore, stands as a testament to a more inclusive and complex understanding of Christian theology, offering a richer view of spirituality that was preserved despite efforts to exclude it from the broader Christian world. During the colonial era, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible faced significant challenges, particularly as European powers, including Italy, sought to exert control over Ethiopia. The Bible, with its unique collection of texts, became a symbol of Ethiopia's resistance to foreign domination and its spiritual independence. For European colonizers, the Ethiopian Bible, which contained books excluded from the Western Christian canon, represented a threat not only to their religious authority, but also to their political and cultural dominance. The preservation of these sacred texts by Ethiopia was viewed as an act of defiance, signaling that Ethiopia would not be easily swayed by colonial powers seeking to impose their own religious views and cultural norms. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, with its strong connection to early Christianity and ancient Jewish traditions, became a spiritual bastion during this period of colonialism. The Bible's inclusion of texts like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and the Maccabees directly connected Ethiopia to Israel and the early Christian Church, which in turn made it a symbol of Ethiopia's long-standing and independent Christian tradition. The Western Christian world had abandoned these texts over the centuries, but Ethiopia's embrace of them showed a commitment to preserving the fullness of biblical knowledge. For the colonial forces, this was a challenge to their authority, as it highlighted Ethiopia's refusal to conform to the Western religious and cultural orders they were trying to impose. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, with its strong connection to early Christianity and ancient Jewish traditions, became a spiritual bastion during this period of colonialism. The Bible's inclusion of texts like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and the Maccabees directly connected Ethiopia to Israel and the early Christian Church, which in turn made it a symbol of Ethiopia's long-standing and independent Christian tradition. The Western Christian world had abandoned these texts over the centuries, but Ethiopia's embrace of them showed a commitment to preserving the fullness of biblical knowledge. For the colonial forces, this was a challenge to their authority, as it highlighted Ethiopia's refusal to conform to the Western religious and cultural orders they were trying to impose. In addition to its spiritual significance, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible also symbolized political resistance. Ethiopia's long history of maintaining its sovereignty, especially in the face of foreign invasions, was mirrored in its steadfast preservation of its religious heritage. During Italy's invasion of Ethiopia in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Bible was not just a religious book, it was a symbol of national identity and resistance. By keeping these texts intact, Ethiopia reinforced its cultural independence and rejected the colonial powers' attempts to erase its traditions and spiritual autonomy. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible thus became a crucial element in the nation's resistance, asserting its right to maintain its religious and cultural heritage without external interference. The banned books of the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible are not just historical artifacts. They hold spiritual and prophetic significance that speaks directly to the modern world. These texts, such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Maccabees, offer insights into cosmic battles, angelic hierarchies, and divine judgment that continue to resonate today. For instance, the Book of Enoch provides an in-depth look at the fallen angels and their corrupting influence on humanity, detailing their forbidden teachings on warfare, astrology, and magic. These themes, once considered too speculative or mystical for mainstream Christianity, raise questions about the spiritual forces at play in the world and the hidden knowledge that might still be influencing human events. What makes these books particularly compelling in today's context is how they reflect ongoing struggles between good and evil. The Book of Enoch also offers vivid apocalyptic visions of the end times, where both humans and fallen angels face divine judgment. These descriptions of the final battle and the coming of a messianic figure who delivers judgment and restores righteousness align closely with biblical teachings about the return of Christ. In an age where global conflicts, natural disasters, and widespread spiritual unrest are common, these ancient texts provide a unique lens through which to view the current state of the world and the potential for fulfillment of prophetic events. The Book of Jubilees also offers timeless wisdom, focusing on the importance of adhering to God's law. While the Western Church moved away from strict observance of Jewish customs, Ethiopia retained a strong connection to these ancient practices, emphasizing the eternal nature of God's commandments. The text stresses that following divine law is crucial for maintaining harmony with God's will. This message is especially relevant in today's world, where many question the state of their faith and the alignment of their lives with God's principles. Ultimately, these banned books, preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, contain profound teachings and prophecies that not only shape the past, but may also hold the key to understanding the present and future. By studying these texts, we gain insight into the cosmic struggle between good and evil, a struggle that is still unfolding in the world around us. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, with its inclusion of books that were excluded from the Western Christian canon, is more than just a religious text. It serves as a reminder that the interpretation of sacred scriptures has always been influenced by historical, political, and theological forces. The 22 additional books preserved by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church offer profound spiritual insights that were rejected by the mainstream Christian world due to their controversial or speculative content. These texts, which explore themes like fallen angels, divine judgment, and the eternal struggle between good and evil, hold messages that still resonate today. They remind us that faith is not just about following a single, established narrative, but about seeking a deeper understanding of the mysteries of the universe and God's role in it. The exclusion of these texts by early Christian leaders who feared their potential to divide or confuse believers reflects the tension between orthodoxy and personal spiritual exploration. It is a struggle that continues in many religious and cultural contexts today. Whether we are looking at how religion is practiced in the modern world, or how history continues to shape our understanding of faith, there is always a balancing act between tradition and new insights. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible's preservation of these banned books challenges us to think critically about what we are taught, why certain texts are prioritized, and what we might be missing from the full picture of our spiritual heritage. In today's world, where many are questioning their faith and looking for deeper meaning in a time of global unrest and uncertainty, the lessons of the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible are especially poignant. The themes of resistance, faithfulness, and spiritual independence in the face of external pressures resonate strongly with the struggles many face in maintaining their own beliefs against the forces of modern culture, politics, and global conflicts. Just as Ethiopia resisted colonial forces by preserving its unique spiritual traditions, we too can learn to protect and nurture the core values and beliefs that give us strength, purpose, and a deeper understanding of our place in the world. By embracing the full breadth of spiritual knowledge, including the overlooked or suppressed, we open ourselves to a richer, more profound connection with both our faith and the world around us.